to the Final Fantasy XIV Caster DPS preview. My name is Ruby, and let's get started. In Shadowbringers, role actions are no longer customizable, and you'll get a fixed set for your role that are unlocked through leveling. Casters only get Addle, Swiftcast, Lucid Dreaming, and Surecast now, all of which function the same way they currently do. Lucid Dreaming's recast time has been reduced from 120 seconds to 60 seconds, while Surecast recast time went the opposite way, increasing from 30 seconds to an insane 120 seconds. As a minor note, Surecast now lasts for a longer amount of time, although that hardly makes up for the 120 second cooldown. Black Mage's gameplay has not changed much, but they do gain some new flashy skills and quality of life improvements. As a note, the duration of Astral Fire and Umbral Ice has been buffed from 13 seconds to 15 seconds, which should make maintaining them even easier than before. The recast time for Transpose has been reduced from 8 seconds to 5 seconds. Convert has been renamed to Mana Font and no longer costs HP, so your healers can't complain about that anymore. Freeze is no longer a ground targeted action and simply hits the target and its surroundings. It also grants an Umbral Heart, and the bind effect has been removed. The diminishing returns on Flare have been modified, and now deals 40% reduced damage to all enemies besides the primary target, instead of the current scaling between 15% and 70%. This is a nerf for 5 enemies and below, but starts becoming a buff at 6 targets and scales up quite nicely from there. There is a new trait at level 74 that reduces Sharpcast recast time from 60 seconds to 30 seconds. There is a new trait at level 78 that buffs Enochian's damage increase from 10% to 15%. Blizzard 4 has had its potency buffed from 260 to 300. As for the other traits, the enhanced intelligence traits have been removed, which shouldn't be an issue since they only account for 48 intelligence. Now for the new stuff. Black Mage's level 72 action is a fire nuke called Despair, and it's basically a single target powered up flare. Just like Flare, it consumes all your current MP. According to the tooltip description of Umbral Heart, it would appear that Despair's MP cost is not reduced by Umbral Hearts. This won't make it clunky to use though, since the following new trait will alleviate the need for that. Aspect Mastery is a new trait unlocked at the same time as Despair. This removes the MP cost when casting an opposite element under Astral Fire 3 or Umbral Ice 3, helping to smooth out the transitions between the two. It also means that you'll be able to directly cast Blizzard 3 right after Flare or Despair. At level 74, there is the aforementioned Enhanced Sharpcast trait, which reduces Sharpcast recast time from 60 seconds to 30 seconds. Black Mage's level 76 action is Umbral Soul, which is an instant cast global cooldown spell that grants Umbral Ice and 1 Umbral Heart. It can only be used when both Enochian and Umbral Ice are up, and its clear purpose is to be used during downtime. By spamming Umbral Soul when the boss is untargetable, you can be ready with Umbral Ice 3 and 3 Umbral Hearts when the boss returns. At level 78, there is also the Enhanced Enochian 2 trait, which buffs Enochian's damage increase from 10% to 15%. Finally, Black Mage's level 80 action is called Xenoglossy, and following the pattern, it's a single target version of Foul with a whopping 750 potency. Since it also uses Polyglot, this will be your new go-to in single target fights. As a bonus, it's also instant cast. At level 80, we also get the Enhanced Polyglot trait, which allows Polyglot to stack to 2. This means that if you don't get the chance to use your Foul or Xenoglossy for whatever reason, you don't have to worry about wasting it if the Enochian timer rolls over. As you may have already surmised, Black Mage isn't changing much in Shadowbringers. The new attack spells are simply single target evolutions of Flare and Foul, and the other new actions and traits are just quality of life improvements. Rotation-wise, Despair will likely be the default finisher for the Astral Fire phase, since we won't have to worry about needing MP to cast Blizzard 3. We'll also be getting more procs thanks to the halved Sharpcast cooldown, and there may be some minor changes relating to the new MP scaling and Aspect Mastery. Additionally, Ice spells being free in Astral Fire 3 means that you can now use Freeze in your AoE rotation directly after Flare, and since it gives Umbral Ice 3 plus an Umbral Heart, you don't have to use Blizzard 3 or 4 in the AoE rotation at all anymore. The changes to Summoner's Aether Flow and pet actions both affect core mechanics as a whole and have resulted in a significant rework of the job's gameplay and feel while retaining some of its old roots. In this section, we're going to elaborate further on the changes along with other aspects. First, let us dive into the pet system changes. Your pets will now be categorized as character actions. Along with Scholar, most pet commands such as place and heal will remain. However, obey has been removed as you are controlling your pet's actions by default. Pet actions will no longer be assignable to your hotbar, and instead you will command them with the skills Edgy Assault 1 and 2, which you will learn at level 10 and 40 respectively. Several pet actions are removed thanks to the changes. The most evident would be the removal of Contagion, Landslide, and Radiant Shield, as well as other skills like Shockwave and Earthen Ward. Several new skills have taken their place, with the addition of Slipstream and Earthen Armor. Your pets are now completely immune to damage, so you won't have to worry about them dying mid-fight. You are also encouraged to swap pets around and integrate them into your rotation now that the pets are off the global cooldown and have an instant cast. Another change to the pet system is the removal of the tank role, which your Titan Eggy was initially designed for. Although the changes to the pets streamlined and consolidated their purposes to mainly deal damage, they still function slightly different. Garuda is a pet you would want to use when dealing with multiple enemies due to all of its skills being AoE, while Ifrit is still your major DPS pet. Your Titan pet will now provide you with defense buffs. Devotion still exists and was changed. It now provides a damage dealt increase to all party members by 5% instead of 2%, with the healing magic potency and mitigation percent bonuses being removed. Last but not least, Rouse and Sustain have been removed from the toolkit. The other significant change to another core mechanic of Summoner is the complete rework of the Aetherflow mechanic. Upon looking at the changes, you'll immediately realize that the stacks are now lowered from 3 to 2, and Aetherflow will no longer be available from your skill tree. This means that Aether Trail does not exist anymore, and the Dreadworm Trance is no longer linked to Aetherflow. Using Energy Drain or Energy Siphon, the new spell you obtain at level 35, builds your Aetherflow stacks by 2, while using Fester or Pain Flare depletes the gauge by 1. You no longer need to have 3 Aetherflow stacks ready beforehand thanks to this change. Therefore, worry no more about your performance getting affected by not having ample time to prepare from a sudden pull or having to rebuild your Aetherflow and Dreadworm Aether from scratch in case of deaths. This change significantly lessens the emphasis of Aetherflow usage and its subsequent mechanics that revolve around it, while also reducing the penalty for dying. The newest addition to Summoner's family of pets will be the Demi-Phoenix. Similar to the Demi-Bahamut from the previous expansion, the Demi-Phoenix is available once the requirement of completing a Demi-Bahamut summon is fulfilled. When that happens, Firebird Trance and Enkindle Phoenix will replace Dreadworm Trance and Enkindle Bahamut, respectively, when Demi-Phoenix is available to summon. The entirety of the new skills from level 72 onwards will revolve around the Fabled Bird of Flame and Rebirth. First, you'll gain the ability Firebird Trance at level 72. This is essentially your second trance and changes your Rune 3 to Fountain of Fire and Outburst to Brand of Purgatory. Fountain of Fire is a skill you also learn at level 72 that deals fire damage with a potency of 250 and grants you the buff Burgeoning Flame that allows you to use Brand of Purgatory, while Brand of Purgatory is another skill you learn at level 72. This skill deals fire damage with a potency of 300 for the first enemy with diminishing returns on the second enemy and beyond. Once reaching level 80, however, you'll finally gain the ability to summon Demi-Phoenix and obtain the following skills: Enkindle Phoenix, Everlasting Flight, Revelation, and Scarlet Flame, along with the trait Enhanced Firebird Trance. From this point onwards, pressing the Firebird Trance will immediately summon Demi-Phoenix, which, like Demi-Bahamut, will only stay on the battlefield for 20 seconds and executes Everlasting Flight, a 20 cure potency regen spell that gradually restores HP of your own and nearby party members, lasting the 20-second duration of the summon. Each time you use an action on a target, Demi-Phoenix will execute Scarlet Flame, a 150 potency move similar to Demi-Bahamut's Worm Wave. Using Enkindle Phoenix will trigger Demi-Phoenix's ultimate move, Revelation, which deals 680 potency to the first enemy with diminishing returns on each additional enemy, just like Ogmorn. First, we'll find that our Ruin spells are adjusted to have their base potencies, but will deal more damage if the target is suffering from a Bio and Miasma effect casted by you. One effect increases 50 potency of your Ruin spells, and 100 when you have both up. This is in addition to the 20 potency gained from the Ruination status, totaling up to plus 120 potency. Another big change is the Dreadworm Trance. which now no longer increases magic damage by 10% or removes Ruin 3 cast time, but instead reduces spellcasting time by 2.5 seconds. The effect of the ability to execute Aetherflow is also removed, and the recast time is increased from 20 seconds to 60. Other aspects of it, such as the Tri-Disaster reset, however, remain intact. Fester is given a significant buff which now deals 200 potency with either Bio or Miasma applied, and 400 when both are applied. In contrast, Painflare's potency has been nerfed, with numbers dropped from 180 to 140. Tri-Bind is completely reworked and is now named to Outburst. The bind effect is gone, and essentially it's a whole new spell. It has a potency of 70. It is also further buffed by Ruination. Another significant skill that was removed from your toolkit is Shadow Flare. Bio 3 and Miasma 3 have both been nerfed. Both spells will now deal 40 potency instead of 50 for their damage over time, and Miasma 3's on-hit damage is lowered by 10. Last but not least, Physics MP cost is lowered from 600 to 400, although the potency remains unchanged. It is currently unknown if it's still scaling with Mind. The first thing you'll realize from the list of traits is the removal of the RDM traits, due to the rework, followed by the removal of the enhanced intelligent traits as well, similar to Black Mage. One major trait change for this expansion is Enhanced Enkindle, which no longer reduces Enkindle's cooldown by 10 seconds whenever Enhanced Ruin 2 triggers, but instead lowers Enkindle's cooldown to 120 seconds. This eliminates the situation of awkward alignment timings for Enkindle with proc RNG. Now to the new traits. First, we get Enhanced Dreadworm Trance 2 at level 72. This grants 2 units of Dreadworm Aether on completion of Dreadworm Trance, reducing the core rotation cycle to 1 minute instead of 2 to summon Demi Bahamut. At level 74, we gain Enhanced Edgy Assault, which grants further Ruin upon landing an edgy action, giving you a certain degree of control over proccing a Rune 4 to better use it for weaving with off-global cooldown abilities. The level 76 trait is Enhanced Tri-Disaster, which extends the Ruination effect to 30 seconds, streamlining all dot effects into a consistent number. Level 78 further upgrades Bane by giving it the ability to spread Ruination to nearby enemies, allowing for Outburst to become a 90 potency per target AoE instead of 70. Finally, the level 80 trait is where you obtain Enhanced Firebird Trance. This allows you to summon Demi Phoenix while executing Firebird Trance in addition to the additional effects as explained earlier in the Demi Phoenix section. The significant changes seen on Summoner seem to have answered many players' wishes to play as a genuine Summoner, successfully eliminating the extremely long build-up it needed to summon your Demi-Pets. All in all, it seems that Square has finally found the answer of retaining the Summoner identity that they've built since the inclusion of the job. Red Mage's simple but highly refined gameplay has remained intact in Shadowbringers. However, moderate changes are brought on to make the job a little more fleshed out. While it may not be major, the little additional stuff adds spice and flavor that further refine the job, while keeping it easy and stylish. While Red Mage received no major changes to their mechanics, the job's already well-refined system is simply going through a series of removals and additions. The only skill removal seen in Red Mage is Tether. Scatter is being given a longer cast time, now increased to 5 seconds. While this may sound like a downer, the addition of 2 new AoE spells for Thunder and for Arrow, along with the increased potency to 120, retains the core concept of short spell into dual cast long spell, and is actually a huge improvement since it helps make up for the lack of AoE. As the job reaches 80, a lot of the skills old and new have been improved with traits that we will obtain throughout this expansion. Displacement's potency is being increased to 200 from 130. The adjustments of damage fall off for Contra 6 has been adjusted to have consistent 50% drop off for the second enemy and beyond. The base potency, however, has remained unchanged. Manification too has changed, thanks to the new trait which we'll touch on later. It also resets engagement cast timer along with Core and displacement. Jolt 2's potency is increased by 10, making it 250. However, it'll lose the impactful effect. The enhanced Jolt 2 trait will also be removed in accordance with this change. Impact's change is by far the biggest among all, with its function now changed to AoE damage with a potency of 220. It has no diminishing returns and is now instead the replacement and upgrade for Scatter. The mana provided by it is also decreased by 1, now granting only 3 for both black and white mana. Last but not least, like the Summoner and Black Mage, the enhanced intelligence traits have all been removed. the changes laid out, it's time to touch on the new stuff Red Mage will be getting in this expansion. At level 72, you will obtain the skill Engagement, an attack sharing the same recast timer as Displacement that delivers a 150 potency attack while remaining in position. At the same time, it will give you the Enchanted Displacement trait, which allows Displacement to deal 200 potency, upgrading the current Displacement by 70 potency. This allows you to have choices on whether to risk yourself and gain an extra 50 potency by backflipping yourself far away, or use a safer alternative that doesn't risk your position but with a lower potency. Entering level 74 is a new trait called Enhanced Manification, which reduces the Manification recast timer to 110 seconds and adds the effect of increasing your magic damage dealt by 5% with a 10-second duration. At level 76, Red Mage will gain two new abilities, Reprise and Enchanted Reprise. While only 100 potency and only usable at point blank by default, the enchanted version will allow you to deal unaspected damage with a potency of 300 and usable at long range, with the cost only being 10 black mana and 10 white mana. At level 78, you'll obtain the last new trait, Weapon Skill Mastery. This reduces Contra 6th to 35 seconds and increases the potency of both the AoE version of Fur Thunder and Verero to 120. Finally, at level 80, you'll obtain the new spell Scorch, which deals unaspected damage with a potency of 700. This spell requires you to land either for Flare or Verholy beforehand, acting as an additional melee combo action to finish with. While it's active, it temporarily replaces Jolt 2. The changes to Red Mage ultimately look minor, and much of them are largely quality of life improvements, but are welcome ones. Especially with Red Mages given their much deserved variety of AoE spells in their arsenal compared to their Stormblood days. The choice to allow to either use Displacement or Engagement is also a sweet addition, as you no longer have to worry about doing less damage because of the risks that it brought. All in all, Shadowbringers essentially brought no changes to Red Mage's already refined playstyle, but instead added new skills that added a little bit more depth to the class. Red Mage mains can be happy to learn that their system has been given a much welcomed improvement. Overall, the Summoner has been given a huge change that drives the job much closer to their traditional definition. Black Mage's list of changes made the gameplay a lot smoother than before, and Red Mage's expanded variety in AoE spells and its addition of a few melee moves further evolved Red Mage as a whole. This concludes the caster changes for Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. We'd like to hear what you think about these changes. Which caster are you most excited for? Leave a comment on Reddit or below. Thanks for watching.